The 2026 Senate elections are fast approaching, and the political landscape is heating up. As we look ahead, it seems that Republicans are nearly guaranteed to hold on to their 53-seat majority, a significant achievement they secured in 2024 by flipping key states like Montana, Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. The real question now is how much they can expand that majority come next November. With the political climate shifting and new candidates emerging, we're about to see a lot of action in the coming months. Very soon, we'll have a clearer idea of who the frontrunners for both the Democratic and Republican nominations will be. Currently, Republicans find themselves in a strong position, and in this video, we'll take a comprehensive look at all the polls that have been released for the 2026 Senate races. We'll start our journey on the West Coast, move our way up into the Northeast, and finally wrap things up in the South. Out west, there isn't much going on in terms of competitive races. This is actually good news for Republicans, as they dominate the seats they currently hold. In Oregon, we expect Ron Wyden to win re-election without much trouble. Meanwhile, Republicans are likely to win every other western state, with the exceptions of Colorado and New Mexico. Alaska is projected to likely red, while states like Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas are all expected to be solidly Republican. On the flip side, Colorado and New Mexico are likely to remain in the Democratic column. All of these races feature incumbents who are not likely to face significant challenges in their re-election efforts. To clarify the margins, anything over 15% is classified as solid. Anything from 5% to 15% is likely, margins from 1% to 5% are considered lean, and any margin less than 1% is classified as tilt. Now let's move to the Midwest, where we have an exciting race brewing in Minnesota. The current Democratic Senator, Tina Smith, has decided not to seek re-election. This opens the door for Peggy Flanagan, the lieutenant governor, who was elected alongside Tim Walz in 2018. Flanagan is currently the frontrunner for the Democratic nomination, but she may not be the strongest candidate for the party. This seat is one that Republicans could potentially flip, especially considering the results from the 2024 election. Minnesota went for Kamala Harris by just 4.2%, a narrow margin that indicates a shift in voter sentiment. This state hasn't voted Republican since 1972, when Richard Nixon was re-elected. The fact that Harris won by such a slim margin is significant, especially given that she was running with Tim Walz, the state's own governor, as her vice presidential pick. Right now, Minnesota is leaning blue, but the dynamics could change depending on who the Republican nominee turns out to be. There are several strong candidates in the mix, although Tom Emmer, the House Majority Whip, has declined to run. In Iowa, the race is likely to remain red. There's a potential chance that incumbent Republican Senator Joni Ernst will face a primary challenger. Rumors are swirling about Trump, possibly supporting someone else due to Ernst's mixed loyalty to him. Regardless of who runs, Iowa is a red state. Trump carried it by 13 points in the last election, and Democrats have little chance here. In Illinois, the race is expected to be solidly blue, but Michigan is shaping up to be a fascinating contest. The incumbent Democrat, Gary Peters, has chosen not to run for re-election, leading to a likely matchup between potential candidates, including Mike Rogers. Rogers, a former congressman, is a strong Republican contender, while Pete Buttigieg, who made a splash in the 2020 Democratic primary and was appointed by Biden as Secretary of Transportation, has confirmed he will not be running for the seat. The absence of Peters opens the door for other Democratic candidates to emerge. This shift in the political landscape could make the race highly competitive, as both parties vie for this crucial Senate seat. On the Republican side, Mike Rogers is a strong candidate. He has expressed his intention to run for this seat, and he's a formidable opponent. Rogers nearly won his last race against Elissa Slotkin, losing by just half a percentage point despite being underfunded. This was a race where Republicans didn't think they had a chance, yet Rogers managed to come within a third of a percentage point of victory. Currently, polling shows Rogers slightly ahead, making this race one to watch closely. Now let's move on to Ohio, where Jon Husted, the incumbent Republican, was appointed after J.D. Vance became Trump's vice president. Husted will be up for re-election in 2026, and this will be a special election. He doesn't have too much to worry about right now, especially considering the Democratic challengers he may face. Sherrod Brown and Tim Ryan are the two most prominent Democrats who could run against him. Sherrod Brown, a three-term incumbent, just lost his seat in 2024 to Bernie Moreno by 4 points, which was a surprising turn of events. He has expressed interest in returning to the Senate, but his recent defeat may impact his chances. Tim Ryan, who lost in 2022, performed decently against J.D. Vance, losing by only 6.1%. This shows that Ohio can be competitive, but for now, Houston is in a strong position. He leads by 6 points over Brown and by 7 against Ryan in the latest polls. Ohio is likely to remain red, similar to Iowa, with some interesting primary battles ahead. In Maine, Susan Collins is gearing up for re-election. In 2020, she was expected to lose by a significant margin to Sarah Gideon, but she pulled off a surprising victory, winning by nearly a double-digit margin herself. Collins is quite popular in Maine, especially given her moderate stance as a Republican. If she decides to run again, she is likely to secure a sixth term in office. Maine is expected to lean red, which is a positive sign for the GOP. Over in Massachusetts, Ed Markey is facing re-election at the age of 78. He survived a primary challenge from Joe Kennedy III in 2020, but he may face another challenge from a more centrist Democrat this time around. Markey is closely associated with Elizabeth Warren, the other senator from Massachusetts, and while he leads in recent polls, the competition could heat up if a strong Republican candidate like Charlie Baker decides to run. Baker, the former governor, is popular, but he hasn't fully committed to the race yet. If he does enter, he could significantly change the dynamics, but for now, Massachusetts is likely to remain solidly blue without him. Now, let's fill in the rest of the Northeast. In Rhode Island and Delaware, Democrats are expected to hold their seats solidly. New Jersey is likely to stay blue as well, especially considering the state's shift from a 16-point win for Biden in 2020 to just a 6-point win for Kamala Harris in 2024. This shift indicates that Democrats need to be cautious and proactive in maintaining their foothold in the state. Virginia is another interesting race to watch. Mark Warner, who has been in the Senate since 2009, is up for re-election and faces what could be his toughest challenge yet from Glenn Youngkin, the current governor. Youngkin, who is term-limited and cannot run for governor again in 2025, has decided to make a move for the Senate in 2026. Although he's currently trailing Warner by about 7 points in the polls, this margin isn't insurmountable. Virginia has leaned blue in recent years, and like he did in 2021, he could make this a competitive race. As we move to the South, West Virginia is expected to remain solidly red. In Kentucky, Mitch McConnell is retiring, but the seat is still likely to stay in Republican hands. The GOP is also projected to win solidly in Tennessee, South Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Louisiana, bringing their total to 52 seats. Florida is currently leaning red as well, with Ashley Moody, who was appointed in 2025 to fill Marco Rubio's seat, expected to win re-election. Trump won Florida by a significant margin in 2024, which bodes well for Moody. Finally, we arrive at North Carolina and Georgia, the two states most likely to flip for either party. In North Carolina, Thom Tillis is the incumbent, but he barely won re-election in 2020 and is not particularly popular, even among Republicans. His narrow victory was largely due to a scandal involving his opponent, Cal Cunningham. If the Democrats nominate Roy Cooper, the former governor who is well-liked in the state, Tillis could be in serious trouble. Polls show Cooper leading in every matchup, making North Carolina a prime target for Democrats. So North Carolina is going to be lean blue. In Georgia, Jon Ossoff is running for re-election, but he faces a tough challenge depending on who the Republican candidate is. Ossoff won his seat in 2020, which was a significant victory for Democrats, but he is vulnerable. If Brian Kemp, the popular governor, decides to run for the Senate, he could pose a serious threat to Ossoff. Current polling shows Kemp leading in matchups against Ossoff, indicating that Georgia could lean Republican if Kemp enters the race. Georgia is going to be likely Republican on this map. John Ofe's career in the Senate may come to an end after just one term if Brian Kemp does indeed step into the race. Based on all this data, Republicans are expected to expand their Senate majority this November. The current projection shows them with 54 seats compared to Democrats at just 46. This would be a remarkable achievement for the GOP in a midterm year, especially after winning the presidency. They are on track to potentially flip both Michigan and Georgia, while Democrats have a chance to gain North Carolina if Thom Tillis doesn't step down. In summary, the final tally for this month's update stands at 54 for Republicans and 46 for Democrats. This projection reflects the current political climate and the dynamics of the upcoming races. The Republican Party is in a strong position, with several key races that could further solidify their majority in the Senate. As we look ahead, it's essential to keep an eye on the evolving political landscape. The candidates who emerge in the coming months will play a crucial role in shaping the outcomes of these races. The primaries will be particularly telling, as they will determine which candidates have the best chance of appealing to voters in their respective states. For Democrats, the focus will be on maintaining their current seats while also looking for opportunities to flip Republican-held seats. North Carolina stands out as a prime target, especially if Thom Tillis remains the nominee. The party will need to mobilize resources and support for candidates who can resonate with voters and address the issues that matter most to them. In Georgia, the potential candidacy of Brian Kemp adds another layer of complexity to the race. If he decides to run, he could significantly shift the dynamics in favor of Republicans. Jon Ossoff will need to run a strong campaign to defend his seat, especially against a popular figure like Kemp. As we move closer to the elections, voter turnout will be a critical factor. Engaging voters and ensuring they are informed about the candidates and their platforms will be essential for both parties. The stakes are high, and every vote will count as we head into what promises to be a competitive election cycle. Thank you for joining us in this analysis of the 2026 Senate elections. We appreciate your interest and engagement. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe for more content as we continue to follow the developments leading up to the midterms. Your support helps us bring you the latest updates and insights into the political landscape. Stay tuned for more in-depth analyses and discussions as we approach this pivotal election year.